Hey, welcome back to the channel. Do you have a DS, DSi, or other small handheld with a broken screen and you just don't want to work on it because you know all those little ribbons and screws are a pain in the butt? Well, it's really not as bad as you think. And on the bench today, we have a DSi with a broken bottom screen. We're going to walk through it and show you how to deal with some of those ribbons and small screws. So, if you stick around, we'll show you how to get it done. All right, on the bench today, we have something we haven't really done any videos on. We have a Nintendo DS. This one happens to be a DSi, and you can tell the DSi's because they were the ones that actually, the first ones that got the camera. So this one came to me today because, as you will see, the screen is damaged. It's in good working order otherwise. It's a little dirty, but you know, that all cleans up and wipes down. So we're gonna go ahead and replace this bottom screen. And I know a lot of you guys out there don't like to work on the handhelds, but you know, it's really not as bad as they seem. Even if you've got good vision, these guys will really help because there are a lot of small screws and a lot of small connectors. So let's go ahead and get into it. First, you know, we want to check for an SD card or a cartridge, and we want to pop those out. Then on the back side, we need to remove the battery, and a lot of these are missing, but in these two screws here, we would have some small rubber feet to keep it from slipping around. Over the years, they could have fallen out or been removed if it had been worked on previously. Obviously, I don't know the history on this one. It just came in with a busted screen. So this particular one has all Phillips. Some of the earlier ones have a mix of Phillips and tri-wings. So let's go ahead and get into it. We need a small Phillips, and well, we don't need those yet, but get this battery door off. Oh, and as you might have seen or noticed behind me, we've got a different logo up on the screen. My older daughter made it for me, and it was kind of my Father's Day gift, which I appreciated very much because I'm not good with doing graphics, and you know, she did this all up on her iPad, and I thought it was nice of her. All right, so the battery's out. Sometimes they stick, but there's a little tab on the one edge that you can get under and pull out if you need to. And if these screws have never come out, they could be a little stubborn. So, and since they're small, you know, try to keep some pressure on it so you don't strip the heads out. I got a switch in the other day that the owner tried to do some work on it themselves, and of course a bunch of the screws were just stripped, and you know, that makes my job more difficult. Most of the time I wind up charging extra if I have to remove damage caused by another repair attempt. I don't like to, but the reality is it'll take a half-hour job and turn it into an hour-long job. All right, I think that is all of them. Yep, that's all of them. Now, one thing to be aware of, there's two things down in here that look like screws, but they're actually screen adjustments, voltage gain on the screen. Try not to adjust those because if you mess with them, you can really overvolt the screen and cause problems. All right, so it'll come apart from the back if it's not stuck together with soda or other nasty. But you don't want to pull it from the back because there's ribbon cables for these shoulder buttons. You just kind of want to lift it so you can get an edge open, and then use a spudger of some sort and come around the front and pop the two clips. Sometimes it's stubborn, but it'll go. There you go, just like that. And then you can open it from the front and you can see this ribbon here. If you'd pulled it from the back, you'd cause damage. You can use your fingernail or a spudger, whatever you're more comfortable with. And we can set this aside, but you can see here, the ribbon is connected to the two ribbons in our volume rocker. And I just had to replace one of those the other day. So now this gets into the fun bit. We don't need to remove this bail here. This is going up to the screen, but we do need to remove some of the ones around the edge. We have the, I believe that one's a touch sensor and a backlight and the screen and the buttons. And then we have two wires over here that we'll get to in just a second. I was going to turn my microscope on this morning and get a closer look, but I was having issues with the recording equipment on it. So we're just going to have to suffer through this a little bit. So this first bail, 2 fingernails just like on the switch on both edges and lift. Okay. These other ones, so this one lifts from the front. This one is going to lift from the back with something sharp, just like that. And we can pull these ribbons out as we go. Try to not get my head in the shot too much. And these ones are lifting out pretty easy. This one comes from the front. And none of these are really as fragile as the switch. The switch LCD connector. It's very compact and double row. These are all pretty robust. And then the same thing here. This one lifts from the back. And this is our touch screen. And this ribbon is especially thin, and you just want to lift it out real gentle. All right, the next bit is our Wi-Fi antenna, and I believe the microphone. This module will lift off its connector like that, and you can leave the Wi-Fi connected. We're just going to set it aside for now. Oh, and by the way, if you ever have one of these that you push and you know the battery's good, but you push the power button, the screens flicker on for a fraction of a second and shut back down, that's kind of going into its own protect mode. 9 times out of 10, it's this module not making a good connection. So if you take it apart, open it, clean this connector with some alcohol, make sure there's nothing in it, make sure there's no corrosion, put it back together. It almost always comes back to life. If it doesn't, then there's going to be some deeper issues, generally with the power control chips. All right, so our last connection here is this little guy. And if you just put something sharp under the back of it and kind of tip it up, you can see it just comes right out like that. And the board's split right here, so they'll come out the back. All right, we have a few Phillips screws to get to. I believe that's it. This holds us down around our buttons. And from here, if everything is out, make sure, oh, we have one more connector. This is just a lift. So if you get under it, don't push real hard, but just get under the edge of the wires and lift, and it should pop straight out. This is the same kind of power connector that the battery in the Joy-Cons uses. All right, so that should be everything now. All our ribbons are out, our screws are out. If we lift it up just above our pegs and gently push our ribbons aside, oh, we got one more screw we missed. It's up in this corner. There, we got it. That should do it. Never force anything. This should come up pretty easy, and you know, it was giving me some resistance, so I knew that something was up. All right, so there's our screen. You can just grab it by its ribbon and lift it out. We can just kind of set that aside for a second. All right, so this screen has the touch panel on it. And obviously our screen here doesn't have a touch panel. If you look here, you can see the metal frame of the screen. But here there's a secondary piece of glass, the ribbon for our touch controller, and then like this bezel that goes with this one. So this is a good time to use a flat chisel blade on a hobby knife, and we can just very carefully work underneath this. Don't force anything. Don't put too much pressure on anything. And we can just gently work around this edge, being very careful not to nip the cable. And you can see one side is flat and one side has the ground edge. Try to keep that ground edge up, and it should just walk right underneath the old adhesive. And of course, if it's very sharp, don't accidentally take out your own finger. It does happen. This one's pretty dull from modifying shells. Just gently walk it around. This is taking almost no pressure. I'm just letting the blade do its thing. And honestly, at that point, since we've gone the whole way around it, we can just kind of tip this back, and it should come off just like that. Now, we'll get something clean. There we go, something clean. Set this aside for a second. Nothing's worse than dust underneath the digitizer. And we can kind of just set that on. Don't smash it down into place. Just kind of put it on square, because we want the two parts to be able to walk. Actually, we're going to do it this way. Go ahead and set this down in. Like that. Make sure the ribbons are out of the way. Make sure there's no dust on that. And our ribbons are going to go to this side. Make sure it's the whole way up in the frame. Power out of the way. And it's just that simple. You can definitely set the touchscreen on the LCD panel first. I don't know. Sometimes it's easier if the glue's not real tacky, no problem, because then they can slide on each other. This one was a little tackier than I was expecting. That's why I dropped it back in the frame first. That way, since the bezel, that black bezel is actually also another sticker. So if you were buying a new screen and a new touch panel, you stick them together, you put it in, and you put the bezel on when you're done from the front. But since we weren't going to try to scrape that bezel off, and we were reusing it, dropping it into the chassis first was probably beneficial. All right, so all we need to do now is make sure our ribbons are out of the way. Make sure they're all on top. Make sure that the power's out. And we've got our touchscreen ribbon in the back to deal with. So we need to dig this one out like that. Make sure it's up top. And make sure our antenna leads are out. Nothing is being forced. Everything should just drop right in. When you lift this board up, you need to be careful of the two LCD ribbons here, but there's plenty of slack in them to lift the board and set it back. So from this point, we can just reverse our process. Now this one can be a little bit tricky. Just lift the bail. And the reason this one's tricky is because it's so thin. Oops. And of course it popped back out right when we had the edge in. There we go. These, this one and this one that the bail opens backwards, they don't take much pressure to close. You might not even really feel it click down. This one with the ribbon that's a little bit thicker will go right in. Make sure these two shoulders are the whole way down. Clip it down. This one is a double row, but it's not as fragile as the ones in the switch. Here again, make sure that the two ears are the whole way up. Click it down. Our power connector goes back in. Like that. The microphone lead, just make sure it's square before you push it down. There we go. And it will click. And there we go. Got a few screws to put back in, and we can give it a test. This one in the corner is a slightly shorter screw. So don't put one of the long ones in and force it. That's why I swapped those ones. When that one went in, it felt like it was pretty soft. All right, so this is the only, this is the next thing that kind of becomes a pain in the butt. They do give you a lot of slack on this one, but there's no good way to film this one. I'll try to keep my head out of the shot, but I know you're not going to be able to see it. Yeah, here, let's break it. No, let's go ahead and tip it up. And just go ahead and line it up and snap it into place. Then the front goes on first, like that. And you can snap it down and around. And just for a quick test, we can go ahead and put our battery in. It only goes in one way. And see what she looks like. There we go. We got a screen that's working, and we can come in and go ahead and verify that our touch panel is working right. If you use a metal tool, just push real gentle. If the touch screen's working, you don't need any pressure at all. So anyway, there you go. That's how you swap the bottom screen or the touch panel. Either way, one or the other is damaged. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I would appreciate a thumbs up, and if for some reason you got to give us that thumbs down, make a comment, tell us what we can do to improve our content. Make it constructive. I've gotten a few in the past that were just straight opinion, and they weren't very nice, but that's fine. Everybody can have an opinion, and everybody can make comments. I appreciate you being here today. Don't forget to hit the bell and the subscribe button because it does help this little channel out, and it keeps this going and being able to create content for you guys to help with repairs. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.